The EFF is unveiling its 2021 local government elections manifesto in Johannesburg's Ghandi Square. We now speak to our reporter again, Samkele Maseko, who is standing by with the president of the EFF Students Command, that is Mandla Shukwambana. You can take it over.
Yes, indeed, Alden. The Economic Student Command, the EFF Student Command is going to be at the forefront of the EFF's campaign to get the Republic of South Africa to vote for the EFF on the 1st of November. The president of the EFF Student Command just essentially speak, Manda, the elections are on the 1st of November. How are students at TVET colleges, at technical universities, and at also traditional universities to come out and to vote for the EFF?
Thank you very much, Samkele. The EFF Students Command is on the ground. We are also being supplemented by the committee formed by the EFF, a youth committee of higher education also, which is assisting young people across the country to vote. We have assisted a number of young people in South Africa, all provinces. The EFF Students Command was busy in the TVET colleges, universities. Also, we have taken it far to the communities where we go and approach young people who are miserable in the villages, who do not have that enthusiasm to go and register to vote or to even go and vote. So the EFF Students Command gathered all those people, we assist them to register to vote, and we are not going to stop there. We are still going to continue to engage them until the last day. We are going to take them to go and vote in November.
You are from the villages in Limpopo. As the EFF are going to ensure that those who are disenfranchised of Limpopo, Malanga, and all other 9 provinces of this country, that they are represented in the EFF manifesto. Their plight is addressed.
We have made consultations to different small institutions and communities. Went to people, we have engaged people, they've engaged us, they've told us what they want and what they want to see the government of the EFF look like. You will hear more on the address of the CIC. It's going to also speak about those things that which we have consulted and give it to the EFF to form part of what? Of the manifesto of the EFF. Left anyone outside. Young people are going to be represented by the government of South Africa, of the EFF. You know that we are in crisis, or as young people, the unemployment rate is worsening. So young people are not working, young people are not employed, young people are not going to school, there's no free education. So the CIC is going to touch more into those things that young people are about, and we have given it to the EFF.
You are at the forefront of decolonizing free higher implementation of line with what you had initially fought for with the other political formation.
Free education in South Africa. That NSFAS is not a solution for free education. In fact, we need an alternative of NSFAS. And the alternative of NSFAS is the government of the EFF. Because the government of the ANC is not ready to give free education to young people of South Africa, particularly black. So young people of South Africa in the institutions of higher learning, they are voting for the EFF Students Command. Now we are on the duty to make sure that those votes translate into the motherboard vote, which is the EFF. Because if there's one government that can give people of South Africa and students of South Africa free education, is the government of the EFF. So we're not going to waste time about speaking many things about this free education in South Africa. Free education can only be realized under the government of the EFF. And now, on the 1st of November.
Thank you very much. You come for the EFF Student Command there, speaking to what forward to the of the EFF inputs elections manifesto. He said at past 11. That's when Julius Malema picking up which our colleagues are showing up now. I'll hand over to my colleague Natasha Piri.
Well, thank you very much, Samkele Maseko. I'm actually joined by a person who was the Secretary General of the EFF back in 2016, and now he's actually heading up the party's African structure, and we're joined by none other than Mr. Godrich Ghandi. Thank you so much for joining us at SABC News. I see you're in a very jovial mood here. People are dancing, but are you not concerned about the number of people that are coming here especially in regards of COVID-19 regulations?
Well, the mines are having more people than this one on daily basis. At the platinum belt, at the coal mining industries in Witbank. This is just a tip of an iceberg compared to the minings, the trucks, the trains, and the factories. So it's not an issue.
Mr. Ghandi, you are also very fundamental in the drafting of the 2016 local government elections. That was the first manifesto that you had back then. Let's just talk through that manifesto. I mean, you centered around issues of housing. And as the EFF, you had said that you would abolish informal settlements and dwellings. I mean, give us a snippet also of what would this manifesto actually comprise of, given the fact that, you know, the last manifesto, you had so many things you had actually promised and committed to the people of South Africa.
I am very certain that the President will be outlining the manifesto of the EFF in an hour's time, and he will never deviate from the non-negotiable 7 cardinal pillars of the founding manifesto of the EFF. We can look forward to all other issues that are related to our history of existence as the EFF, and definitely our ideological perspective on how we see things in terms of the involvement of the state, a developmental state, in making the lives of our people better. The President will definitely outline along those lines.
I mean, as the EFF, we've been speaking to various leaders in the morning. They've spoken about the achievements of the EFF, but it will also be interesting to know, I mean, what failures have you been through as a party since the party's inception in 2013? Yes, in sourcing of workers, you've been championing that, but I mean, what other issues have you been championing as a party?
Well, I think the public is better placed to tell us what could have been our failures, but otherwise we have never been in government. You can't judge us about being an opposition. There has never been a failure in the EFF. All we are doing is a perpetual struggle to strive for perfection.
Now, you've been tasked in leading the African structure of the EFF. I mean, let's talk to the EFF's growth in other African countries where the EFF, you know, has actually settled its presence.
Well, you will agree with me that in Namibia there is EFF Namibia with 2 members of parliament, in specifically EFF Namibia. In Swaziland, our people at Eswatini, they are building the organization from the ground, from one constituency and one village to the other, and they are building a massive organization that is based on the masses and person to person.
What outcome are you hoping for come the 1st of November?
Well, I'm very certain that like we have done all along, we moved from 6% to 8%, we moved from 8% to 10%. We are looking forward to a double-digit spectacular performance on the 1st of November, because as a matter of fact, we are the only growing party in South Africa. The DA fell from 59% to 55% at the Cape Metro. The ANC and all others are falling in at eThekwini. We look forward to the same in Mangaung, in Buffalo City, and do well in Gauteng and Nelson Mandela Metro. We are very certain that the DA and all other parties are just going to a ground halt. They are going to decrease, and we hope to hang, and if not to win, the Cape Metro, because they fell from 67% in 2016 to 55% in 2019. So we can put them below 45 or 40%. It's doable in the Cape Metro.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Ghandi. We look forward to hearing the president of the EFF, Mr. Julius Silomalema, addressing members and EFF supporters out here. But let me just also bring in my colleague, Samkele Maseko. You've seen, as SABC viewers, we've been on the ground since the morning, soliciting and getting views from not only political party leaders of the EFF, but of course ordinary people here on the ground. Let's just actually chat about this. We actually are counting down to that address by Mr. Malema, who should be here any time from now. But I mean, judging by what you're seeing right here, Samkele, you've heard the EFF saying that they won't be dictated to by government as to how they'll be conducting the election campaigns or even holding their manifestos.
Essentially, the leader of the EFF, when we were with them 2 weeks ago in Alexandria, it was very clear that when the Constitutional Court said the elections must go ahead, going against that recommendation by retired Deputy Chief Justice Ghandi Mosoleke, he essentially said that COVID-19 regulations were thrown out the window. They are in full campaign mode. I do see here, though, that they have tried to a certain extent to stick to COVID regulations. Even though there's a huge number of EFF members gathered here at the Ghandi Square, they are broken down into 3 compartments. There are others who are on the other side, on the opposite side. There are others who are behind, underneath the tent here. Then there are 2 overflow areas on 2 roads adjacent to the Ghandi Square. So it tells you that to a relative extent, they have tried to adhere to COVID regulations to try and have some sort of social distancing, even though there is none. But we have seen that people are wearing their masks, there are sanitizers on the ground. The focus now shifts to the manifesto of the EFF. In 2016, they are the kingmakers. They are looking at taking all the low-hanging fruit municipalities in their words, which is Johannesburg, Tshwane, and all other metros in the country. You just spoke to Ghandi, who is a deployee of the CCT to the Western Cape. He says the Cape Metro is also up for grabs. It may be hung, saying that in the 2019 national general election, the Democratic Alliance received 55%. You go to the last local government elections in 2016, the DA had received 62% in the Cape Metro. You come to Johannesburg, there was no party that reached over 50%. The ANC dipped to about 48% in Johannesburg. They dropped in Tshwane, they dropped in Ekurhuleni, they dropped in Nelson Mandela Bay, they lost Mugale seating. In all of those municipalities, Jesus came back, in their own words, of the African National Congress. So it tells you that the EFF, the 3rd biggest political party in the country, is a factor in these local government elections. They are yet to win wards, though. As it stands, the EFF only governs 1 ward. That is in Zone 1, Sishikho, where Julius Malema is from. He took that ward away from his longtime best friend and friend, Boema Mabulo, who's an ANC member of parliament. So as it stands, they are not a party that wins wards, but they are hoping to win wards in these local government elections. Only time will tell. Out of all the wards that are there in the country, over 4,000 of them, the EFF currently only governs 1.
Sam, is it correct to use the recent by-elections as a barometer for the elections, for the upcoming November 1 elections? You speak to a very important point. They haven't won any wards except that 1 ward that you're mentioning. So, I mean, judging by the by-elections, how do you actually think that they'll be doing at the polls?
It's very difficult to dictate at this point in time what will happen to the local government elections. But what we have seen over the past 2 years with the by-elections that have been held, the governing party has been winning overwhelmingly in those wards. But, Natasha, the EFF is also growing rapidly in those very same wards where the governing party is winning. And also, the political landscape is changing, particularly within the city of Johannesburg. The Democratic Alliance has lost a number of wards, and in Tshwane, to the Freedom Front Plus, in the northwest as well. The Patriotic Alliance has taken a number of wards from the DA. The ANC as well has taken wards from the DA. But in the ANC's base, which is the townships, the rural communities, the EFF is growing tremendously in those wards as well. Particularly when you look at Limpopo, Gauteng. You also go to eThekwini region. You go to Umgungundlovu district municipality, Umsunduzi. You look at the voter turnout in the 2019 general election. It should tell you a story of the growth of the EFF. They grew by over 400,000 votes in KwaZulu-Natal. Julius Malema has continuously said, if the EFF is to govern the country, they have to make sure that they win wards, they win elections in 2 provinces, Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal. And KwaZulu-Natal, they've deployed Marshal Dlamini, the SG, who's from Mzimkulu. He's working day in and day in day out to make sure that the EFF grows. In the Eastern Cape, they've deployed their Deputy President, Floyd Shivambu, and Mwiseni Ndlozi. They are working very hard to make sure the EFF grows in that particular province. They've replaced Advocate Dalimpo, who was a deployee, head of deployees in that province. Julius Malema has taken it upon to his own hands to run Gauteng, to run Limpopo as a deployee of those provinces. Hence, you've seen him at every regional people's assembly in Gauteng. You are also seeing him in every regional people's assembly in Limpopo, his home province, where his branch is at Zone 1 Sishiko, alongside Josi Butane, who is the provincial chairperson. So they are everywhere with the national chairperson out in the Northwest province. They are on the ground. But the proof is in the pudding on the 1st of November, if they win any wards apart from that one ward in Zone 1 Sishiko.
And indeed, the proof really is in the pudding. You've answered my question about the party's growth over the years. But Sam, let's talk about coalition governments now. I know the EFF didn't want to talk much right now about, who they're actually in talks with. But I mean, should they actually win significantly, who do you think they'll be likely to go into coalition with?
I don't think any party will win overwhelming in any of the metros, looking at the state of affairs within the political space. But what is very clear is that there is some sort of a working relationship currently between the EFF and the region of the ANC in Johannesburg. It may not be formalized. I do know that Marshal Dlamini, the SG of the EFF, has been having a lot of meetings with the regional leadership of the ANC in Johannesburg, in particular with Dada Morero. The contents of their discussions is not yet clear. When there were votes to elect a new mayor in Johannesburg, the EFF did not participate, they abstained. The late Jeff Makubu was elected. When the late Jolly Timatongo was elected, the EFF abstained. But Julius Malema has had a long-standing relationship with Jolly Timatongo stemming from the ANC Youth League. They have had personal relations. The EFF leadership has personal relations with certain leaders of the ANC of their own generation. We don't know what that will yield. We do know that the EFF has been very clear that they will not work with the racist Democratic Alliance. Even Helen Ziller has been very clear that they will not enter into any relationship with the EFF where the dog's tail is wagged by a person who's a minority in the government, which essentially tells you of the breakdown in relations of the voting on issue-to-issue basis that the DA had with the economic freedom fighters when Musi Maimane was still the leader of the DA. When Helen Ziller came back to the fore, ultimately the election of John Steenhuisen, that relationship broke down. The EFF started with getting rid of Ethel Cholip in the Nelson Mandela Bay region, which is ultimately what broke down the relations between the DA and the economic freedom fighters. So the negotiations for the metros are going to be very interesting going forward.
Let's talk about the significance of today. It's by no coincidence or by no mistake that the 26th of September is actually the birthday of the late Umama Winnie Madikizela Mandela. The EFF is having their manifesto here, and it's also unveiling its new headquarters.
You see, Natasha, I'm not sure, but I think our colleagues on the OB van must be showing these visuals of what's happening on stage now. CTT members of the EFF are on stage. Behind them is their new home, which they announced 6 years ago that they've purchased, they are renovating, and it's named after Julius Malema's political mother, the mother of young people within the political space. That is Mama Winnie Madikizela Mandela. Mama Winnie is the only ANC leader, when it was not fashionable, who stood up on a podium and said, "Viva EFF, viva." The only woman, a stalwart, who was not afraid to associate herself with Julius Malema, even when ANC leaders were launching an onslaught against Julius Malema, when he was fired from the ANC and ultimately expelled, she was there by their side. She's always been there for them. It's no surprise that they would name their home after her. They wanted the Cape Town International Airport to be named after Mama Winnie Madikizela Mandela. So she's been a very important figure to them. In the graduation of Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, she was there. She gave the speech at Mama Winnie's, at Mbuyiseni Mandela's graduation.
Well, thank you so much, Samkele. We see on stage that proceedings have actually started. We have performance, and as Samkele had said, that there are CCT members on the stage already. Of course, the leader of the party, Mr. Malema, has arrived, and of course, we will be crossing to that soon. But let's just also get, some reactions from the people on the ground, Gage, what they have to say. Ma'am, where are you from?
I'm from Orlando West, Ward 40 in Soweto.
And what are you expecting to hear? I mean, we can see that the EFF leader will be addressing you very shortly.
Actually, what I would like to hear is about jobs, because we see a huge unemployment rate here in South Africa. Because as this COVID-19 started, a lot of people have been retrenched from work. They're no longer working, as you could see. And this looting thing made things worse, because where I stay, Pick and Pay no longer exists, because people have been retrenched that side to this looting stuff.
And what outcome are you expecting at the polls, especially for where you're from? I mean, we know that the people of Soweto actually suffer with challenges around electricity.
About electricity, though, because we don't suffer a lot about electricity, right? It's just because people can't pay electricity. Not for what reasons, we don't know. Because the rate is way too flat, but people, they still breach the electricity instead of paying that minimum fee in order for Eskom to supply us with electricity. We know that coal is expensive, water is expensive, so most people don't understand about that thing, yeah.
Other than job creation, like you said, I mean, you're a very young person.
Yeah.
What else are you planning to hear from, the leader? I mean, in the 2016, manifesto, election manifesto, he's spoken about education, free education as well.
Yeah, about the free education, we still have to persist on that, because most learners want to go to school, but they don't have any funds. And whenever they try to apply for NSFAS or Funza Lushaka bursaries, they don't get accepted in time. So I would like to urge bursary companies to reply learners in time, because learners are so desperate for education, they're so hungry. Yeah.
Let's talk about, you, as a woman, let's talk about the scourge of gender-based violence.
Yeah.
How has the EFF Women's Day personally helped you as a woman within the party?
Actually, about the women's gender-based violence, we're having various teams of whereby we fight about that gender-based violence thing. We have an head office down there in Fisher, whereby women, whenever they are abused, whatever thing, they get to give them rehabilitation,
And is it easily accessible?
Yeah, it is accessible to each and everyone. Whether you're in ANC, DA, wherever, it's accessible as long as you are under South Africa.
Thank you so much. Let's just also go to another gentleman here. But uphuma uvelaphi?
Kunjani unjani sisi?
Ngiyaphila uvelaphi?
Ngikona mina ngiphume eKrugersdorp eMogale City o27 lapha siyakhala ngomasipala lo bangithumela iletha bathi ngikolota i7,000 so umama ushonile akinalotho mina ke mohambi ngimufana kamahambi so
okay baba thina sifuna ukwazi ukuthi njengoba uze la uzoza ukuthi imali uzothini wena what are you expecting to hear?
Okay, ngizela imanifesto ye-EFF ngoba kudala ngihlangene noJojo so la ngizokuthi izinto ngifuna empilweni eSouth Africa siguquke siguquke sibe nemisebenzi sibe nezinto zonke nabantwana baphile kahle iyo bathini leyo kuhlukumeza abantwana nabafazi mele iphele kwamanje mele namhlanje mele iphele ukuhlukumeza abantwana nabafazi uSipho Mambi inkunzi
Siyabonga Baba Sipho. Let's just bring in the gentleman here who's also very eager to talk Baba one at a time and also social distancing please, there's still COVID, so you're very eager to talk. What are your expectations today?
What I would like the EFF to I would like the EFF to remember the artist okay, I would like the EFF to remember the artist of South Africa because everything are quiet in this country. Don't think immediately this. Akwenzeki next. Sicela ukuthi abantu bekhona ukuthi beyivotele. Ukuthi ikwazi ukusiza ama-artist.
Okay. Siyabonga Baba. Well, various views here, Elgin. Some are saying that they want their leader to actually speak to the issue of jobs. As you know, that South Africa has one of the highest numbers of the unemployment rate. We also spoke to Ubudila saying that he hopes that the EFF will help artists, South African musicians and artists. Elgin, what we're here on stage, what we're hearing on stage is Umbuyiseni Ndlozi, I beg your pardon, actually singing an anthem there. And of course, let's just cross back to in studio.
And Samkele Maseko following the launch of the EFF's manifesto, which is currently underway at Ghandi Square, and also the unveiling of the Winnie Madikizela Mandela House.